So here we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this latest Compassion Check-in with me, Rasheed Ogunlaru, speaker and author, and with a wonderful group of people who we have here today. This is a regular, just for those of you joining us for the first time, or anyone who happen to be watching this is really an opportunity for us to pause and really reconnect to ourselves. And it's quite interesting. The idea, I first decided to put these on about 4 weeks ago now, when the COVID-19 kind of really kicked in and that lockdown was beginning to emerge, or we were heading into that direction, and to help move from a sense of anxiety to a sense of inner peace, a real opportunity to check in. And the reason why we hold it at noon, it's literally midweek at the heart of the week at 12 o'clock on Wednesday. I think it's a perfect time for us to connect. So I just wonder if everyone would just tell us their name and maybe what you do or what's brought you here, just really briefly. You all know me. Maybe let's start at the top. My top hit, Darren. Do you want to just tell us who you are and what's brought you here?
Sure. I'm Darren Sylvester. Sylvester was a barrister. Rasheed was very helpful in helping me over 4 years ago set up on my own practice. As Rasheed said, this is week 4, and I think I've been here for all the other previous weeks. And we have different topics each week. This week is legacy, I believe. And it's a really good way to spend an hour bouncing off other people, bouncing ideas, sharing concepts in this time of uncertainty and the unparalleled nature of COVID-19.
Nice one. And you're in the full marks. I think that you're the one person, possibly with Rob, who's been here every time. Let's jump across to Dwayne. If you want to unmute yourself, Dwayne, and tell people who you are and what's brought you here. So there should be a mute button right along the bottom.
Yeah, hi. Hello, guys. So my name is Dwayne. I'm a nurse, mental health nurse, and I've been doing some coaching with Rasheed. So I just thought, fantastic opportunity just to join in today. So thanks for having me, guys. And
you're very modest because you've also got a background in choreography as well as all of that, also, Dwayne, in the arts.
Yes.
Really glad you're here. Let's jump down to Frank. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name's Frank Munro. I'm a civil servant. I work for the Ministry of Justice, and I'm a campaign manager. That is, we recruit people for the arm's length bodies like the Sentencing Council, Parole Board. I'm here because, as everybody else is, we're living in uncertain times, and it's all about sharing experiences and learning from each other.
Thank you very much. Let's jump across to Rob Neal, OBE. I have to just get that in. I have to get that in every time.
I'm infected by Dwayne's laughter. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Hi, everyone. My name's Rob Neal. I'm a civil servant like Frank, a blended career now. I'm also a coach and a facilitator and trainer. And coming on 9-10 years ago, Rasheed helped me to start my own company, and I do that on a blended part-time basis. It's called Crystal Alliance. I'm here because I believe that the way forward and the way through this pandemic and crisis is matters of the heart. It's about the often inarticulate voice of the heart, and it's about, therefore, compassion. And so the moment Rasheed set these up, I was in, he had me at compassion, I was here, and I'll be here as much as I ever can be. And he alluded to it as being one of those that's happened to have been at each one, along with Darren. But I'll be here each Wednesday at 12 for as long as I can. And I look forward to the exchanges and have loved all of the exchanges thus far. So nothing but love coming out to everyone.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Andrew, welcome to the first time. If you want to unmute yourself, it'd be lovely just for you to just introduce yourself and say hi to the room. Oh, hi, it looks as though you've frozen there, Andrew. Oh no, you're back.
Yeah. I'm joining for the first time this week. I was sent a link by Dwayne this morning, so keen to just get involved and contribute. And
I can hear you very well.
Andrew, we could only just about hear you. We could just about hear you. So do you want to say that again? Because it's worth hearing you again and unmute yourself. Let's hear you again.
Sure. Yeah, so hi everybody, it's Andrew here. Hopefully you can hear me a bit clearer. So I was sent the link by Dwayne this morning. This is my first time taking part in the session, but I'm just here to kind of see what it's all about, take part, and yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, you've just take it, if you want to take yourself back off mute, but we heard you nice and clear that time. Jessica Huie, MBE. Jessica Huie, MBE. Do you want to say hello to the world? And you're going to need to unmute yourself, though.
Oh, hi, Dwayne. It's so lovely.
Hello, Jessica.
Be reunited. I am just going to, first of all, apologise for having my camera off. I'm literally in my pyjamas. But I just wanted to be here, so I hope you don't mind, Rash. Thank you. I'm a writer, amongst other things, and I run the Transformational Visibility Academy, which helps women to lean more deeply into their calling and share their gifts in service to the world.
Wonderful. And you know what, Jessica, your fame precedes you, because earlier on, right in the top right-hand corner, you might be able to see Darren. And Darren said, "Is that Jessica Huie, the founder of Colourblind Cards?" And I said, "Yes."
Oh. And Rash is a dear friend and also my co-host for the Precious Awards. And I've been really fortunate to experience his retreats in Portugal. Was that last year or 2018?
Yeah, you were in 2018. You were with us.
Yeah, still such a precious memory. So,
I agree, Jessica. Full time.
Wonderful.
My goodness, yeah.
And my friend,
really to be here.
Wonderful. And my friend Iris, do you want to unmute yourself and say hello to the world?
Hi, everybody. I just looked Jessica profile with that face. I don't mind seeing her in her pajamas.
I was going to say the same thing.
We think alike, Rob. Come on.
I am on your page, Iris. I'm on your page. I hope she's persuaded, but she's got to make a call.
Well, actually, she's less brave than me. I haven't had my shower yet. I've been working since 5 o'clock in the morning to deliver something. So, Jessica, just turn on the video. We don't mind you in your pajamas. This is the new way.
No, not today.
Perfect.
Thank you. Not today.
Perfect.
Welcome, Iris. Welcome. Well, and Mavelle, do you want to introduce yourself to the room? Or you're just going to need to unmute yourself. Oh, yeah.
Hi, so I'm Mavelle Dash. I'm an ex-civil servant, which is where I know Rob and Frank from, and where I first met Rasheed. I now work at the FCA, but like Rob, I have a bit of a blended career. So I have my own coaching practice and D&I consultancy. That's called Modus Personal Development. I joined these calls. I haven't been on all of them. I've been on 3 of the 4. But I've come to find them as a bit of an oasis in the middle of my week. So for me, spirituality and connectivity and doing things that nurture my spirit and my soul are really important. And I see this as a midweek dose of spiritual enrichment. So that's why I'm here.
Oh, thank you so much. And the wonderful Lydia Warren from Bart's Ability, from Bart's NHS Trust. Lydia, thank you so much for joining us. I know how busy you are. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, in which case you'll just need to unmute yourself and just say a warm hello, but I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Lydia Warren and I work with Bart's Health and I run the Disability Network. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There's a bit of a crackle on the line, but I think if I could everyone hear you, that Lydia runs the Bart's Disability Network, and I'm so glad that you're here. Lydia, can you just say a huge thank you to everyone at Bart's for the amazing work that you're doing? I'm going to just say that to you, for the amazing work that you're all doing. Incredible. And I'm so glad that you're on this call. Yeah, you see, we're just applauding spontaneously. Can you hear that, Liz? Okay, so welcome everybody. Really good to see you. Today's theme is around legacy. And it's funny, isn't it? At times like these, and these chats are a bit of a free flow, really. I'll say a few things and then I might just ask you your thoughts, and feel free to just put your hand up or to just to put in the message bar, or unmute yourself if there's something that you're wanting to share. But our theme today is around legacy. And I guess at times like these, suddenly, I don't know if anyone else has found themselves, you know, during this whole pandemic, really thinking about what's really important in life. Why am I here? What's really, really important? And we start thinking about, well, what have I done? What have I not done? Am I doing the things that I'm really passionate about? And so on, and legacy. And it could be, I guess, legacy with either a big L or just a small L. Anyone want to jump in there in terms of what the word legacy means? Funny enough, the last Soul Trader retreat I ran last year, the theme was life, leadership, and kind of legacy. Anyone want to kind of jump in there about legacy? Frank, I'm going to turn to you. For some reason, I'm just going to turn to you. What does that mean to you? I mean, personally or professionally?
For me, when I think of legacy, I think of, if you like, the breadcrumbs that have been left for me, my signposting, the lessons learned, very often the very hard lessons learned, and what can I do to build upon that and improve that and make a difference. Rob will know that one of our really good friends, Abdul Rob, his phrase is, we walk on the shoulders of others. And that's, you know, for me, that encapsulates it.
It's so true. It's so true. I like that thing that you said about the breadcrumbs. I live on the breadcrumbs of others. There's something about that lineage and that appreciation of what's gone there before. And we can sometimes forget about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all me. I've done this, I've done that, and not giving that credit to those people there and before. Anything you want to say? Rob, your name was mentioned then, your mutual friend, Abdul, talks about that. But what does legacy mean to you? And one of the hats that you wear, you are one of the core team, the team at Reality, which you mentor and help support and encourage a whole new generation of particularly young Black men. What does the word legacy mean to you?
You got to unmute him.
Rob, you're on mute.
Sorry, folks. I went on to mute at the beginning. Sorry, folks. My apologies. Listening to everything said, but went on to mute at the beginning. It means a few things, Rash, to me and others. The word that's coming up for me, the word that's coming from my heart at the moment is impression. I think legacy, when I think of the word legacy, I think of the impression that one leaves in the space they move from. Literally the physical indentation, the spiritual indentation, the emotional indentation that one leaves. The impression that we leave on people, on others, with our aroma and our aura and our flavor and our style and our swagger and our smell, and you know, the manners that we bring, the discipline that we offer at times, and our delivery, but the impression that others may take away and seek to replicate that, and therefore an impression of one. I think all of that is part of our shadow and our legacy and that which we leave behind. It's the kind of the stuff that's in the air after we've moved on. What is it that you are able to impress upon others? How do you leave people feeling? What's that saying about, I will forget those things I read, but how you made me feel, I will remember. And I've discovered this part of my journey and my quote unquote career is that it's about me listening to my heart, leading with my heart, offering my best, welcoming the best in everybody I meet. And if my legacy can be about that, encouraging the best in others and offering my best with those I meet, then I will have done my work. And God has vested that in me. I walk forward in that, and I seek to offer that in all the places and all the exchanges I have.
It's really interesting what you're saying there, Rob, you know, because a few things jumped out to me, and as funny enough, as you're speaking, just before you mentioned that quote, the Maya Angelou quote, you know, people forget what you said, what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel, and that stuff that we're left with. One of the things that jumped out to me was I remember that when I got to a certain age, 20, of course, 20 or 30, no, certain year that I got to, right? And I suddenly realized, I felt as though like I was on a hill. You know, when you're on a hill, and for the first time in my life, I'd never felt like this before. I felt as I could see where I'd come from before, all the years I'd had before. But I was aware that the rest of it was finite. I couldn't quite necessarily see quite where the top of the hill. None of us know how much time we've got left. But it was really interesting why I had suddenly this sense of perspective, and then the sense of what was really important, and a sense of, and the best possible sense of the word, urgency. That things are really important. I think that very often in the day-to-day we forget how important things are, you know, and friends, family, loved ones, whatever it might well be. So for me, I suddenly started to embrace this word urgent, you know, that if something is important, then how can I do that now? So for me, I think I've got a quote which says that legacy isn't it's not about that's once you're gone, it's that you do here and now that happens to live on. It's that I'm doing now, what I do now, what I contribute now, but it just happens to linger on after that I'm here. So that resonates with me. Andrew, I want to turn to you, my friend. What does the word legacy mean to you? Anything that you feel about this word legacy, either personally or professionally, or what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I guess I've just been thinking, well, I've been listening to you talk about it, and initially it has a slightly different connotation to me, in that it might be the way something has been done, or something that's been left behind, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be adopted or kept that way in the future. So, you know, like a legacy way of doing something might have been repeated over and over again because it was felt the best way of doing something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't challenge that or think to improve or change it in the future. But equally, I guess listening to what Rob and yourself had said, it also is around, or I think it was Frank actually, was it, that said about the breadcrumbs that you leave behind, you know, sort of what your, the actions that you and how you bring yourself now, and how that may influence other people in the future.
I really like that. I really like that. And I love that bit, that first bit that you were saying, Andrew, about that. There's that legacy thing that we first of all given, isn't it? And the thing is that it doesn't necessarily mean that because it was done that way before that it's necessarily the best way. It makes me think of some organizations I'm working with, and they're talking about legacy, this bit, and they're merging together. And actually there's some things that neither of the two organizations before got it right. So we need to we can create, there's an opportunity to enrich, to get to another point, even beyond where we were before. I really like that bit, that point about legacy, as well as the breadcrumbs and bit of the legacy. Anyone else want to kind of add in here? Mavelle, anything you want to say? Dwayne, anything you want to say? Or Iris, anything you want to say at this stage? In which case, you just unmute yourself or put your hand up. And Jessica and Liz, I don't know if there's anything you ever wanted to say or...
For me, I guess, I agree with everything that's been said, and all of those things definitely resonate with me. But I suppose I as a parent of an 18-year-old who's about to kind of go out into the world independently, for me, legacy is also about, you know, being a teacher, which we all are. It's about being a teacher, teaching life lessons, spiritual lessons, lessons in everything really, that are then given to your child and to everyone that you come into contact with and that you touch, that they then take on and teach others and live. So for me, legacy is not just about what's happened in the past, it's about what's happening in the present and what goes into the future via the lives that you've touched.
I like that. I really like that. I really like that. Dwayne, what's your feeling here about legacy?
I think, well, for me, everyone, whether they're past, they're on, or they're living, we're creating our legacy. you know, and I think the people who I am most impressed by are people who are creating their legacy to their passion, their compassion, and creating meaning in their lives. So those are the type, so I think the legacies or the things that I'm drawn to are people who've created meaning in their lives, and who are, whilst creating meaning in their lives, they have compassion and they're passionate about it. So those are the kind of, I guess, you know, I have some frames on my walls of people who I like Maya Angelou, Bard Rustin, and I think what I'm most intrigued by, and what I'm driven, what I'm interested in, is looking back at their life journey. Oftentimes the suffering parts, the ones that, not the end results, the beginning stage, and how their passion and their compassion left them to create legacies that are meaningful to me, for example.
I like that. I like that because I think that wherever, as you're saying, wherever that's come from, you know, what is it in these people, what are these qualities that I'm drawn to, and what is that I can draw from that, and the meaning, you know, I guess all sorts of people leaving us with all sorts of stuff, but people have lived lives with passion,
yep,
with meaning, with heart. Iris, my friend, what's your thought here on legacy?
Well, my thoughts on legacy, I will put what I've been thinking lately with this sort of work that I used to do and what I want to do in the future. Mm-hmm. And what I find is actually legacy has been some sort of barrier instead of being, because we always talk about legacy as a positive thing, but there is a lot of negative legacy that we have to deal a lot. And for example, I always worked as a market researcher with taking brands or taking business from one country to another. And now I want to work more with people and telling them you can work beyond your own geographies. And what I find is very hard to communicate with people that come from the same background that I come, because they have this legacy of believing that is not their place to be working internationally, to having access to other people. Because actually, you know, if you are, in the situation of Brazil, if you are mixed race and if you are from the lower social economic class, you are born believing that you don't have the right to go to university, and this, you know, you don't have the right to work with certain people. Certain jobs is not your right. So this is a legacy that we have, and some people may say that is culture, but it is actually legacy, because I wouldn't get some jobs in Brazil that I do here, because people look at me and they say, well, you are not good enough for that. And they just look at my hair and they look at the part of me that is African to say that I'm not good for that. Then I go to other people that say that I'm not good for that because I am from indigenous community, and they think that we have some beliefs that doesn't go with what they believe. And then of course, if I try, out of my 8 siblings, I am the one with the lighter skin. So we have all the colors in the planet in that 8 siblings. And, you know, but when I try to do the same with the white hairs, I cannot go that further. I cannot go further either, because I'm not part of their group. So there is this legacy of, I think that, you know, culture puts some legacy on us. And sometimes we talk a lot about the positive of legacy, but there is a lot of negative of legacy that I find very hard to deal with. So legacy actually can be a barrier in some cases.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, Dwayne, that really resonated with you.
Yeah, because, you know, and I think because you're so right, because our legacy implies that, you know, you think of the legacy, for me, you're thinking of the Nelson Mandela, all those people, and, you know, but it's the cultural legacy. I mean, this is the black and white divide. It comes from all those stuff, and one has to be mindful of that, because if you're not, you can get lost in the system. So I agree with you, Iris, in terms of kind of there's so many different forms of legacy. So I guess that's why it's important for individuals to create meaning in one's life, and it's important to have the passion and also the compassion, because you talk about the divide, whys, for example, in your case, and in my case as well, we have to understand, even for them as well, they're coming from a point of, that's what they were taught, that's their tradition, so how do we break that? And that can only come from compassion, understanding that we all have that to deal with. And that's, so yeah.
It's interesting. One of the things that also jumped out at me whilst you were speaking there, Iris, I was thinking about that legacy and so on. I was thinking about right now for lots of younger people who, just before the COVID-19 thing, one of the things that was going on was that, hang on a minute, what about our planet? What are you adults doing with our planet? What kind of a planet are we going to have left? Are people, am I going to be able to get a job? What's the economy going to be like? What's the environment going to be like? What are you doing in terms of pollution? What about how things are built up? Is anyone going to be able to afford a home? So that's interesting, isn't it? That thing about legacy. I guess the word that's jumping out for me now is this thing about our responsibility. I just want to bring in something that you, Lydia, you just made a very powerful point here. And Lydia, I wonder if you might want to come onto the line and just say a little bit about this. You were saying, yeah, what legacy means to you is that being able to make a change and leave what I do for the next generation. Lydia, I want to ask you a question here because fortunately I've had the pleasure of knowing you. I guess that one of the things that jumps out to me is that legacy, there can be a big challenge here, isn't there? Because suddenly there's a big responsibility. So for example, you chair Bart's-ability. And then for any of us who are leaders, there's a huge responsibility then that comes with it too, and it's not easy. I'd just love to hear your thoughts on that, because it's a difficult one, isn't it? Or Liz?
Yes, it is. So being co-chair for Bart's-ability, I think that's part of my legacy, going back to the NHS and leaving for the next generation. So the next person will come along and carry that work forward. Mm-hmm. Also, legacy is a big part of family life as well. So you're leaving it for your nephews or your sons or your daughters or anybody like that.
I want to ask something else also, Liz, here. Very often we talk about these things. One of the things that jumps out to me is that sometimes, and it makes me think of something that Iris was saying there, who's left in and who's left out of the conversation. Very often when we look at these things, we look at them through an able-bodied lens, don't we? And often we do not hear the voices of people with disabilities. We do not hear the voices of people from certain socio-economic backgrounds, of people. Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts, or even up until, or still sometimes we don't even hear it from a gender perspective or from an LGBTQ perspective or so many different faiths and so on. I just wonder, Liz, your view on that. And I think particularly from that disability perspective.
So my thing is about the intersectionality of different, like if you're disabled and you're a woman, you're a black woman, or disabled and you're a black woman and gay, and so that's part of being part of the network as well. I think a lot of us can sit there and say, oh, this is not right, this is not right. But if you put yourself to it, you'd be able to just make that change. Mm. And that's where your legacy will come into it. Yeah,
Liz, the line was a bit poor, but I was hearing the main things of what you're saying. You made that point about the intersectionality. Somebody might be black, female, gay. There might be this, that, and that. We don't necessarily sit in one particular box. But you were saying that there, Bart's-ability, there's also about providing that space where all of those things can be honoured. Was that right?
Yeah.
I want to bring in Jessica Huie. Jessica Huie in Pajama Land. Jess, what's your take on?
Yeah, I was just typing, but I'll share it. First of all, thank you so much, Rash. It's really soul food to be able to share in these conversations. Thank you. At 12 o'clock in the middle of the week. So thank you. I was just thinking, you know, what legacy means to me has really changed over the years so much. And I think it used to be so much more of an external thing. And there was definitely, you know, there was love in that. There was a desire to create change and progress. But I think, yeah, it's to quote you, Rash, it's become something which is much more, legacy for me is much more now about an internal journey and becoming more of who I already am. I think from that place, you know, of course I want to impart and support my children and leave them with tools and an outlook which is going to be most conducive to their living as fulfilled beings. But I just have got to a stage where I really recognize that the most powerful way I can do that is through this stripping back of all of the often legacy of who, you know, I was raised and to believe that I am by ancestors who were also told those stories. And so, yeah, I agree with everything that everyone has said. It's the shadow and it's the light, and it's about removing, becoming as free of that as possible in order to be of most legacy to my children and to the world. You know, and what we do from that space is almost inconsequential, because from that space, anything that we do will always be driven by selflessness and compassion. So
I love that. I love that thing that you said. It's both the shadow and the light. And that thing about, you know, if I show up as that, then it's always going to be rich. I love that. I love that. It makes me think of, you know, quite mine, which is, your job is to do your job, by which I mean your life's work. Your job is to do your job with all your heart to the best of your ability. Life will go its own merry way at its own merry pace. But if you do, then you and life will be the richer for you being here, which is what I'm hearing from you there. You know, just that there's something, if I show up as me, if I just am me, and I do whatever it is that I do, if I just sing my song, then my life is going to be richer for that. And you know what? Other people's lives are going to be richer. I just want to come back on to you one more time on that, Jessica. I just wonder, did you feel, you know, you said it's changed. Did you feel that, because I've read your book, or in fact, I've got to admit that I haven't read all of it. I've got to finish it. Now in lockdown, I can finish it. But I was struck by your book. And one of the things that I'm just curious about, did you feel in your journey as though that you were having to fight against the legacy that other people were assuming what you would achieve? Because I think that, you know, not everybody here will know your story, but what fascinates me about that, you could have easily accepted, you know, picking up on some of the things like somebody saying, okay, you should be this, you should do this, you lived here, your background's this, you should accept that, but you weren't prepared to accept that. Can you tell us a little bit about that in terms of legacy, and was it difficult to fight through that?
Yeah, I think it came now. In retrospect, I can see that it came from all sides. So there is definitely the legacy of, or the expectation, excuse me, of, you know, being a mum at 17 or whatever, and, you know, no qualifications, and the expectation that I wouldn't thrive, that I had to battle through. And that, you know, as you know, Rash, was really the fuel for a lot of my accomplishment. But that's coming from a place of lack. And then that only takes you so far. It becomes eroding, it sort of erodes you. And then there is the success, or, you know, in inverted commas, as Rob said, it's that, which also, you know, if your identity, and I've done all of this stuff, I created the first that, and I've got those letters after my name, if that becomes the definition of yourself, that is equally erosive. So, you know, it's how do we rid ourselves of all of these stories about what it means to be worthy and create a true legacy which has nothing to do with anything outside of us.
Wow. I love that. Oh, I love that. For me, that's just absolute music. I love that. Now, welcome Mia, welcome Robin, welcome Yvonne. I want to, so we're talking about legacy. Who have we not? Mia Morris. Excuse me, Mia Morris. Now, Mia Morris, right? You've been involved in the work that you've been doing for a long time. You were one of the first people in the UK, for example, involved in the whole Black History Month movement here. I'd love to know what legacy means to you. And as somebody who's been involved in creating legacy that lots of people look up to. What does that mean to you?
Legacy is all. It's the beginning and the end. We are here just for a moment, and it's about making those moments count. We all have a unique contribution to make.
Wow.
And I got involved in Black History Month. I ran the website for 14 years and stopped doing it because there was no money in it, basically. It's nice to do what you love, but you've actually got to make a living out of it. But now it's lockdown. Now websites mean everything to people. It shows you how things go round and round in circles. And a lot of it's about what you are doing to make your contribution special.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's really beautiful. That's just so beautiful. That was just really beautiful. For me, that was just like music. That was just like music in the room. Ah, yeah, I'm seeing some comments here. Jessica, Frank said, moving and heartfelt, beautifully appreciated. Robin, my friend, is that my young friend Robin? Is that Robin? Is that my friend Robin who's on my last music video? Robin, can you unmute yourself if you can? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I think that's a yes.
Okay. Yes. 1 second, I need to get clear. Okay. Yeah, so well, Robin, I'm just wondering, okay, I'm just going to fill in a little bit of time because Robin, you're of the younger generation, and this is making me sound like a really old man now. And I'd just love to know what the word legacy means to you. What it means to you. Yeah. I'd just love to know what the word legacy means to you. You might be in your car, so if you're in your car and you're driving, you just unmute yourself when you're ready, and then just type in when you're ready to say something. Otherwise, I'm going to turn back into the room. Anyone got anything that they would like to just add and then share just before I bring Robin in? If you want to raise your hand. Darren, please.
I mean, hearing what everyone said, you cannot disagree with it, but there's a quote I often come across, and it says, life is the most difficult exam. Many people fail because they tried to copy others, not realizing that everyone has a different question paper. Now, it embraces what everyone has said. We have to follow our own life path. We have to follow our vision and be the best self that we can be. But I think it applies pervasively in our own personal lives, if we do any voluntary work, in our spiritual lives, in how we interact with people. But I think, as you said, the legacy is not what we've left behind after we've gone. It's what we're doing here every day, showing up, dealing with the struggles, dealing with the good points or the good times, dealing with the bad points. But I can never be a Rasheed Ogunlaru. I can never be a Rob Neal, but I can't be anyone on this chat, but I can be myself. And if you think doing the best that you can do every single day, then in theory, you should leave something as you go along that you can look back and say, well, this was great. I've looked back, I'm in an association that did its 40th anniversary in 2018. And in this lockdown, I look back at both the 30th commemorative brochure we produced and the 40th that we did in 2018. And when you look back, at the time, it took a whole lot of work to plan this. We got lottery funding, putting the brochure together, awarding people with special recognition. But it's so good to look back, and that's only in a voluntary capacity. So now this lockdown is giving people time to look back and go over what they've done in their personal lives or in raising the families. We just power on, and I think I mentioned this in previous chats. We power on, sometimes not thinking about, taking time to think and take stock. And this is the wonderful time to do that. And that's my contribution.
That's really powerful. And one of the things that was really powerful that for me was unlocked when you were saying that, something just jumped to my mind, is that what can happen a lot of the time, isn't it, is that we become so overwhelmed by that legacy. It might be by this sibling who's achieved, this person there who's did that, my boss did that, or my parent did that, or I can't do that. And it can seem overwhelming, isn't it? Or this person in my industry did that. How can I compete with that? It can become really suffocating for people. So this theme about just being who it is that we are and knowing that that's enough. I mean, one of the things that really struck me, as being a coach is I remember really clearly about 3 years into coaching, all these people would come to me, including people who'd achieved all sorts of things, but they all felt either as though they weren't good enough or that they could do better. All a variation of I'm not good enough. And all I could see was this magical person looking at me. I could hear the narrative, but I didn't see that. I didn't believe it completely. I could just see this magical, gifted person that they were. So I think there is something about how we've got to kind of shake off this, picking up on shake off of that whatever those notions are, and just to be oneself, just to show up with one's own heart and to do whatever it is that we can. Robin, my friend, I'm going to invite you in. If there's anything that you want to share at all, it will be wonderful and it will be rich. So I don't know if you can hear us. Go for it. I put you on the spot, haven't I? Okay. Can I hear you? Oh, okay. Anyone else want to say? Anyone else want to bring something in or to share? I'm going to bring you back in, Andrew. Andrew, what's anything else you want to add?
Yes, you're the only white in the group.
Nothing more to add. I guess I think Mia that said the very first line that she said was around legacy is everything. And I guess listening to everybody talk, that's what kind of keeps coming through. It can be the past, it can be what you're doing for the future, it can be something negative, it can be something positive. Like even through listening to everybody's interpretations, it feels very multi-dimensional in terms of, you know, what legacy can be, and it can be something for good, and it could also be something, you know, that maybe has negative connotations that we want to shift and change as well. So yeah, I think it was just sort of more on the same theme, really.
It's interesting. That's made me think about, you know, what are the things in terms of legacy? What are the things I'm wanting to shift and change? What are those things I'm wanting to shift and change? What are the things that maybe no longer resonate with me? And I think, Robin, you're now on the call and you're on your iPhone twice. So can you hear me? And are you happy to just say a word?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, my friend.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully everyone's doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, legacy is like, so far, is fulfilling like one's purpose. And that's just what I have so far, because I feel like at a young age, I'm still learning a lot. So if you were to ask me the same question next week, I feel like it could be changed. And that's just all to do with, that's all to do with, you know, what kind of information I'm taking in and how I'm amplifying it and like kind of broadcasting it out toward people. So yeah, I still feel like I've got a lot to learn, and I'm like really fortunate to hear from you guys firsthand of, you know, what the experience is so far.
I thanks so much, Robin. I want to ask you another question. I think what's really amazing, and from what I know about you, you know, you've already got a rich legacy, because for me, there's many different dimensions to you. You live in Ireland, you're from South Africa, you know, you've got a global presence on Instagram. What does, do you know, when it comes to legacy, are there particular bits, how do you feel about the different strands to your legacy? Do you feel that they sit well with you? Are there things that you're kind of, how have you danced that dance with legacy? Do you know what I mean? And I'd love to hear any thoughts you have on that.
I feel like, yeah, it's an interesting question. I feel like I've danced in and out of like of genres, if that makes sense. So like I feel like I've been tapping into and dancing into the things I'm comfortable with, where I haven't actually danced into things I'm not comfortable with, if that makes sense. And that comes with one person's comfort zone. So one of the things that I wanted to say to myself since kind of this year was to step out of my comfort zone and try those new things.
I like that. I like that. I like that. Anyone want to, I'm loving the energy in the room. I'm loving the really energy in this room. Everyone's kind of soaking stuff up. Mavelle, you always have wise things to say.
Because I'm an old lady. I don't know. I don't know. I was just listening to all of that, and I think I understand that the conversation is about legacy, and I'm loving the conversation as you are, Rasheed. But what struck me was that I think I was sitting there thinking, isn't it fortunate that we don't live our lives thinking in terms of legacy? Because if we do live our day-to-day lives thinking that way, that is an overwhelming pressure in and of itself. So I think that, as we talked about before, understanding who we are is a massive job. I'm 51 years old, and I feel like I'm only just coming to understand who I am.
You need to give me some of the youth potion you are taking.
I can't, it's genetics. I have to go to Mum. I have to go to that fountain of youth that is my mother and ask her what she does, and maybe she can impart that knowledge to you, Rash. But yeah, it's we really have to kind of understand who we are, and that takes work. And so I think if when thinking in terms of legacy, it is really incumbent upon all of us, whether we're parents or not, to pour into people, the younger people, that is really important for them to understand who they are, so that they can understand how to live their lives without being in the shadow of legacy and of others, which is part of the issue that we have today with young people on social media, constantly comparing themselves to other people. So if we were to speak to them about legacy and add that into the equation, that's just even more pressure. So I think for us who are more mature, thinking in terms of legacy is great, but we also need to be able to think about who we are, what it takes to learn who we are. And we talk about in coaching circles, understanding your why, knowing what that is, because that is your driver for, for who you are, how you live your life. So it's really trying to come into terms with that. And for me, as a parent in particular, part of my legacy is pouring that knowledge into my daughter and helping her to understand it's important for you to just be you and spend your time learning who you are, forget other people, because that is a task in and of itself. And once you get that, then you'll be happy. Then you can live from the place that Jessica was talking about, where you are just coming to the table with understanding who you are. And some of the most confident and powerful people that I see, I just know that innately they know who they are, just from the way they carry themselves and the way that they speak.
I think what you're saying there is really magical. And I love the link between what you said and what Robin said just before, because I think there's something for us to remember that which is that this finding ourselves or rediscovering ourselves or connecting ourselves or fully blossoming into who we are takes time. And often there can be all sorts of ups and downs. And I think it's what I got from music of what Jessica said. It can take us through all sorts of ups and downs, all sorts of challenges, isn't it? It's not an easy path. I'm sure for none of us it's been easy, and there can be all sorts of internal, external, all sorts of factors as part of that. And I think there's something that when we are, and it brings us back to the central point of compassion, and Dwayne was talking about that central point of compassion here, which is for me to be compassionate with each and every other person, that whoever they are, however old they are, it might well be a journey for them to be authentically themselves, to be honest with themselves, to move beyond their fear. They might well be cold because they can't find the warmth themselves. There might be all sorts of barriers that they're wrestling with, unbeknownst to me. So it's really important for me to realize that it's a journey. I remember that very early on in my career, I always used to wonder, in my very first job, I started working at Which when I was 18. And I remember that all the older people, there were lots of people, they're middle-aged, and they ran departments, they always seemed to be so confident. They knew what to do in this situation, that situation. I came to realize, like a few years ago, that's just what we call experience. That's just of having seen so many different seasons of life. And so I think particularly when we bring back in that younger generation thing that you mentioned there, it's for us to be kind, it's to be nurturing, to realize we've got a responsibility. I have got a responsibility. I've got a responsibility to everybody, actually, to be as kind and as compassionate as I possibly can be. That's a journey that I'm on. I realize I am on a journey every single day of compassion. And every challenge, everybody who annoys me, every conversation that irritates me is the most wonderful gift. I have a saying that where there's hurting, where's the learning? Where there's hurting, where is the learning? There's always learning deep in that hurting. Who haven't we heard from for what's Rob Neal, and I'm not going to mention the letters because you're so much more than those letters. Oh, you might be on mute, Rob. So
you are on mute.
I'm always on mute. I'm getting lazy today. Again, apologies, everybody. I'm really drawn by what Movella's just shared about the pressure or the added feature that thinking about your legacy ahead of time, or thinking about your legacy before, prematurely perhaps, is something that can have a pressure of its own. I feel a bit of that pressure as someone I'm a father. I have 2 children now, young adults. My daughter's 27, my son's 23. I'll be 56 next month. And I can't help but think about what is it I'll be leaving them when I'm no longer on this mortal coil. What is it that even the pandemic brings to bear and focus when we think about provisions for those close to us, our loved ones, our relatives, our things that we hold dear. So there's a bit of, I guess, under the legacy heading that I end up thinking about because of the practicality of it, you know, because of the provision, and, you know, reading as I was recently about intergenerational wealth and our ability and capacity to do that in order to give something of a head start, but something of a provision for those that come after us, most typically our children. And as I say, whilst my children are forging their way and I am doing the best I can as, you know, the bows from which they are fired as arrows, as Khalil Gibran will say to us, it's about how I can do that to the best of my ability. But I'm drawn to what Movella said still, because for me, it is about, with the present time, I've come to a realization over my decades of life now that it's about offering my best. It's about welcoming the best in those that I meet and doing that with an open heart. Of course, there are times when that may leave you vulnerable to all sorts of pain and hurt and things that you would not necessarily welcome. But that my journey is about offering my best, studying commensurate with my ambition, reaching out to those and sharing with them that which I have learned, offering them that opportunity, giving our young future captains of industry through entities like the Reach Society, which I'm involved with, to say, even if you have traveled a journey where you've made choices that were poor, that ended up with poor outcomes for you, here is a second chance. Here is a third chance. Here is something that you can do to offer your best. And I am here to support that.
I love what you were saying there, Rob, and it drew a couple of things to me, very powerful and very, very important here for me. We often think about that legacy very often from the first thing. What can I provide? What can be the assets, the home, the money, the gifts, the salary, the this, the that.
The roof over our head.
The roof over our head. But actually, often we forget about every single thing, every word that is offered is a potential blessing, is a potentially rich. I've recently been having some conversations with online my old English teacher. And my old English teacher was really important to me because the very first thing I ever wanted to be was right? And I remember really clearly my old English teacher said to me in an English class, I always used to be, used to think I was really, really clever. What's changed? But he used to, he called me up once because I'd write these I was writing these novel kind of stories, and I used to write a diary at school that people would pass around. And he said to me, look, if you want to be an author, he was a best-selling author. He said to me, you need to sort your grammar out. And that struck with me. And it was, for me, it wasn't that it was harsh. It was the first acknowledgement. He was somebody who acknowledged what I wanted to be. So for me, that one thing was really rich. I really do genuinely believe that everything that anybody ever says to us is there available at any time. Sometimes we lock it off, sometimes we shut it down, sometimes we embrace it. So everything we say to absolutely everyone we meet is a gift. And for me, that takes us back to the heart of compassion check-in. For me, if we have this gift of voice, this gift to be able to communicate in whatever way, dancing, whatever we do, whatever we paint, draw. I remember the lady who used to be the street cleaner here, I noticed that people would go past, and this is a true story, about 1 in every 5 people would say hello to her. Everybody knew her. She had this smile, this warmth. And I said to her once, this impact that you have on everybody. So we've got this huge opportunity every single moment to impact on everybody we meet, and also including people who've never met us. People who are on this call who said, I just loved what Ira said, I love what Mavell said, I love what Frank said, what Andrew said chimed with me, what Dwayne said, I'm so glad that I've heard it, what Darren said, what Mia said was music to me, what Jessica said, what Robin said was very powerful. For me, this is the invitation that we have every day, that we often forget, that we have this opportunity in every single moment to shower people with riches and to let them know how magical and gifted that they already are. That's a little bit of a Rasheedism. Anyone got anything that they would like to to add or share, including the people who are just with us by the power of your words on audio, feel free to unmute yourselves.
I just wanted to offer to Rob and to everybody on here, when you talk about the pressure that you feel, Rob, in terms of being a provider and as a parent, I think that's something we all feel as parents, or as indeed as family members who are caregivers or who are sources of support for other family members, whether that's financial or otherwise. What I wanted to offer was that, as Rash just said, everything that we do, every word that we offer, every kindness that we offer, and the fountain of knowledge that you are, Rob, and that you pour into other people, you don't need to have to feel that kind of pressure, because you look around and your living legacies are everywhere. Each one of us on this call is a teacher in many ways, and we offer a lot to each other and to the world. So therefore, we have living legacies everywhere. But for those of us who are parents, we are fortunate enough to see, especially when our children turn out well, we are fortunate enough to be able to see our living legacies. So I think in moments of doubt and when we feel pressure, we can look at our children and look at our living legacies and say, job well done. But for those of us who aren't parents, we can look around and see through the work that we do, Rasheed, through these calls right now, you are a living legacy, because the stuff that we're imparting with each other, we'll pass that on. So we can see our living legacies everywhere. I just wanted to offer that to everybody on the call.
Dwayne, I think I could sense that. I got the feeling, Dwayne, you were going to add or to share or to.
No, I was just gonna say spot on. I think it's just eloquently put. I mean, I think we need to kind of be mindful that whatever we do, whether we think it's insignificant or not, it matters, because someone is looking and someone is listening. And if we go about our daily activities with even the least amount of compassion, someone is going to get something from it. So I think it's good, Marvel. I agree with you, spot on.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Jessica, who's just about to log off. I think, Jessica, you're just about to log off. Jessica, just before you do, if you haven't gone, do you want to say one word to us to offer on your way out, or you might be literally already gone?
Oh, just thank you. Thank you. And it's really lovely to connect with some new faces and see some familiar ones. And thank you, Rash, as ever, for your beautiful heart and just creating this space for nourishment, which filters out and creates legacy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. I've seen what you said, Darren, about our theme for next week, and I'm going to invite everybody on the call to, the last word on this call is going to be you, because you're going to be giving the last word. I'm going to invite everybody on this call to share what is your advice to yourself moving forward, not your advice to us, because it's easy for us to offer out platitudes to everybody. I want to know, because you know yourself well, you know how you hide and how you show up. So I want everybody here to offer in 30 seconds or less your feedback to yourself. And whilst you're doing that, I'm going to think about the theme for next time. Or if you've got a suggested theme, feel free to throw that in the mix. I'm going to start off top left with Dwayne.
Oh.
yourself.
Today I'm going to say to myself, I'm going to nominate myself more often.
I like that a lot. Yeah. Darren. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, my friend.
It's easily done,
Sorry
Darren.
about that. Easily done. Copy and Rob. I'm going to say to myself, slow down, take stock, and reassess.
Yeah, love it. Andrew, your advice to yourself, and you'll just need to unmute yourself, your advice to yourself moving forward.
Yeah, I think don't take on the pressure from others, or don't put on additional pressure to yourself, particularly around this topic of legacy that we've been discussing today.
Wise advice. Rob?
I'm going to tell myself, and this has been inspired by some words I heard Movell share, that you are enough. You are enough. Your values, your heart, your offering is enough. Just keep doing it. Keep looking after yourself, your energies, your entity, your physical, your emotional, your spiritual, your intellectual, because you are enough.
Hello. Frank Monroe.
For me, my takeaway to myself is that my actions must always be predicated by not by who's watching or observing me, but what's the right thing to do.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Mavelle.
I'm going to tell myself to give myself a round of applause and acknowledge the work I've done so far in understanding and acknowledging who I am.
How about a round of applause, standing ovation? Iris, your advice to yourself, and you'll just need to unmute yourself.
Well, my advice is be more like Nakano. You don't know who Nakano is, but Nakano is this Japanese, Chinese teacher that I had when I came here. And we became friends after I attended his classes. He died a few years ago, and a friend of mine said, oh, he died alone. And I put on Facebook a note that Nakano had died, because I told her it's impossible. He was an amazing person. A person like that is not alone. And then on the day of his funeral, the place was full of people. And in half an hour, people just decided to go up front and tell them how Nakano was an exclusive friend for them, unique, just for them. And I couldn't believe, because some of the people that went there said how Nakano was good with children. And the Nakano that I knew hated children. Others said that Nakano was he drank a lot. The Nakano that I knew didn't drink. So I thought that was amazing, that about 30 people went up there and described a Nakano that the other person in that place didn't know about. And all of them believed firmly that Nakano was an exclusive friend. So I just thought, well, perhaps if I could mean something that much to someone that they think that I am just that, just for them, it would be amazing. So that's Nakano's story.
I like that. That resonates with me. Robin, your feedback to yourself, your advice to yourself, and you just need to unmute yourself one more time, my friend.
So from hearing everybody's words, it's actually really inspiring. So I was going to say to follow like one's soul and let go of thoughts that are not necessary. And yeah, just block out that noise and follow the heart and soul instead of, what you think is right, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And I just want to say, just an unashamed plug for you and for me. Any of you who've seen my last pop video, I'm dancing, the young person who's doing all the tricks, flips, and all the rest of it, the free running, isn't me. It's Robin. And I just want to say a big thank you for that as well. Mia Morris.
Right, I've got a quote. You know what I'm like? It's from Arthur Ashe, the late Arthur Ashe, and it was shared by the late Dame Jocelyn Barrow at her event I'd gone to. And it says, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can.
Wow.
Wonderful. That's really magical. Magical. And we've had a suggestion for next week, same time, same place, belonging. I was thinking about love. I think belonging is a beautiful one. Right now, I think it's really important. I think belonging, everyone happy with that? I think it will be a really rich, I think it'll bring out lots of different dimensions again. I like that, belonging.
I also have one for a further conversation. What do you like about, what does one like about themselves?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. I like that.
Have we done happiness, Rasheed, at all? Because maybe that could be one.
Happiness is a really interesting one. Well, got to write that down as well. Fantastic. I just want to say a huge thank you to you all. Can I just say to all of you on this, I think what you're all doing, what you're all doing in terms of your own legacy is really, really great. I mean, I'm lucky enough to know all of you to some degree. Some of you, it's clear what you've done, and the awards that you've been quite rightly been praised with are quite richly deserved. Others of you, through the work that you're doing in coaching, training, through your years of public service, that's really clear. others of you through how you live your lives boldly, courageously, authentically, and genuinely in all that you do. That's an incredible thing. So I just want to just thank you all for being here and sharing here with us. I'm really very grateful for you spending your hour here. Rob.
I just wanted to mention really quickly, Rash, that today, 22nd of April, is Stephen Lawrence Day. It's the second occasion that we've celebrated that day in the UK. I'm going to sense that most of us know who Stephen Lawrence was, and we're here talking about legacy. And certainly through the work of Doreen, his mum, and his dad, Neville, a lot of processes have been put in place to celebrate that life. Live Our Best Life is in fact the hashtag, but you can check him out, Stephen Lawrence Day. It's available online, and there's ways in which we can promote knowledge of what happened there. But more importantly, even in the words of Doreen, is what we now do going forward. So it's just to mention Stephen Lawrence Day today, 22nd of April.
I'm so glad you said that, because I think there's something here that I think that I want to just, for us to also just pay tribute to all those people who may not have had the ability to have a space where to articulate who they are, what they're about. And so all those people who have contributed, all those people who quietly, some of those inspiring people just quietly go about their business, and who play such an incredible part in so many people's lives. They don't get the plaudits, they don't get the applause, they don't seek it. Those are the people I really, really deeply, deeply admire. So I'm so glad you also said that, Rob.
If anybody wants a ready-made kit as to where things are, all in one email, very concise, email me if you want that at Robye, R-O-B-Y-E. Should I put it in?
Type it right in. Type it right in as we speak, my friend.
All right, I'll pop it in, and then we can go around to the rest of the people to say goodbye. But yeah, just email me if you want that kit, and I can email it to you straight away.
Thank you. Wow, this has been one of my, I've enjoyed all of these ones. And I've loved the energy of this one. This one had a really nice, something extra special about it. I can't put my finger on. There's something wonderful. Maybe it's because this is one that involves everybody. Do you know what I mean? That legacy thing, you know, we think about everybody. Thank you so much, everybody. This will be on my YouTube channel later on today. And thank you so much. And I hope to see you all again. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.